Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
A stinking Browns fan? Are you kidding me?
I don't care about no damn Raz score, Casey.
Scam of the day, scam of the day, scam of the day.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Good morning, everyone. In the 2007 critically acclaimed blockbuster film, animated movie, The Bee Movie, starring Jerry Seinfeld as Barry B. Benson, there was a scene that goes something like this.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh God, Casey. Oh God, Casey.
What is that? Oh no! It's a wiper! Triple blade! Triple blade! Jump on! It's your only chance, B! Why does everything have to be so doggone clean? How much do you people need to see? Open your eyes! Stick your head out the window!
From NPR News in Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, some days you are the bug, and some days you are the windshield. And my God, yesterday, the Cincinnati Reds ran right into that windshield, and the Chicago Cubs laid it on thick. In the words of our good friend, the Zebra, Elliot Rearing, it was a tough one yesterday for the Cincinnati Reds. I am sitting up here, Paul Fritchner. We're going to recap it all. We're going to talk a lot about it. We have 2 hours to do some cathartic release about what happened last night up in the Windy City in Game 2 of the series. Paul Fritchner, and we have our good friend over here, Zach Fries. Zach is a blogger now here at Chatterbox Sports. If you don't know where to find the blog, you can find it at chatterboxsports.com. Click on the tab called The Word. We have some more articles coming out soon. Zach, you've been writing for us for about a month now, put out some great stuff already. Wanted to bring you in, wanted to get you on the air. You've already guest starred here on the show. You were on last week. But now you're in studio. Great to see you.
Great. Thanks for having me. Great to be able to fill in for my good friend Elliot. You know, I know he's probably being tortured right now. Reed Mouse is having a good day, so that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Elliot's stuck in a car with him, but I'm glad to be here with you guys. Casey, Paul, it's an honor, really, sit in this seat.
Honor used lightly. Casey, how are you today?
Paul, I've been better. Last night was rough. It was rough. It was really rough, Paul. I don't know how to feel about Stevenson anymore. I don't know how to feel about Kevin Newman anymore. A lot of people are saying DFA. A lot of people are saying DFA, both of those guys.
Many people are saying. Okay, so I have a take. And I want you to buckle up. I want you to bear with me for this take. I figured today I had to wear my Hamilton shirt. I know Reed's not here. I'm a proud alumni of the broadcast team of the Hamilton Joes. So is Reed Mouse. But I figured I'd rep my Hamilton pride for today's show. I have a take. The Reds lost last night 20-9. They were never competitive. They were never in the game. They were never... That game last night was a wash from the moment that game started. But there was a play in the bottom of the first inning. The Reds go down in the top of the first, scoreless. Go to the bottom of the first inning. There's a ground ball to Kevin Newman at second base. Did they score it a hit or an error?
They scored it a hit, I believe.
I think they scored it a hit, but it could have been an error.
Yeah.
It could have easily been an error.
It was probably
been a lot of that this year in Major League Baseball. Been a lot of that. That was a tailor-made double play ball to Kevin Newman. Hear me out, because this is how things go in sports, and you might know where I'm going with this. If he makes that play, a tailor-made double play ball, if he makes that play, there's 2 outs, it's still scoreless, you get a little confidence under yourself if you're Ben Lively. Maybe you get that 3rd out, you move on into the 2nd inning. It changes the entire complexion of the game. Maybe the Cubs still win 20-5. Maybe that still happens. But from there, the floodgates open, and things go south. The Cubs score 5 runs before the Reds even get... The game was over from the start. From the moment that play happened, Stevenson throws a ball into center field. Why he even threw that ball in the first place is beyond me. That's a ball you got to know with the jump that the runner gets. You don't even throw that ball to second base and risk anything crazy happening, much less try to even get the out. He did. Ball goes into center field. There was about a 5-minute window there where the Nationals were up 2 runs, and the Cubs and the Reds were starting. Things were looking okay. You're thinking, okay, Milwaukee might take another loss to the lowly Nationals. Reds might be able to gain another game in the division standings. Might be up 2.5 games when the night is done. Boy, oh boy, was that not the case. Do you or do you not agree, Zach Freese, that if you make that play, the complexion of the game is different?
Absolutely. I think that was it was a hard hit ball, but if you're a second baseman, if you're a major league second baseman, that's a play you got to make. And like you said, it's probably a tailor-made double play. It did have a very, everything that could go wrong went wrong for Ben Lively. I know he didn't pitch well, obviously. He gives up 13 runs, but the first inning, it was a bleeder that led the game off, and then it was, I think he might have had a walk, and then that ground ball to Newman, and then there was another seeing eye hit, and then it just was I think Bellinger's was it had eyes, and yeah, I think it definitely changed the complexion of the game. Like you said, we probably still lose, but it just felt like such a deflating play when you have. I'm not going to say, sit here and say India makes that play or anything, but
you are an India guy.
I am.
You are on the record as being an India guy. So we just need to establish here now that you're in studio. I know you talked about it last week when you were on, but we just need to make sure getting here in studio because there is a clear line of division down the middle of this Reds fandom right now where you're on one side of the fence or the other. He is still on the roster as he had to be because he was on the injured list, but you are an India guy.
I'm an India guy. I know. Most people, a lot of Reds fans, a lot of people in this office, or maybe that were in this office last week would have traded India to the Guardians for,
bag of peanuts.
But I still think, I still think India has a place. Maybe in the offseason, we'll see. But I wasn't a big on trading India, at the deadline just to get rid of him. But yeah, like you said though, Paul, I think that was a big play, right? And then the whole Stevenson thing. I'm curious of your take on this, Paul. I know the lineup dropped, and I'm not a huge lineup. I got to look at I don't delve too much into the lineup. I don't think it matters most of the time. But yesterday was an interesting lineup. They face a lefty. Where do you stand on? I know there was a lot of analytics. I joked when the lineup came out, it was very much a this is what the computer printed out.
Yeah.
This is what the computer printed out. You had Senzel in there who hits lefties well, and Newman hits lefties well, and obviously Stuart Fairchild was in there. What do you think about the whole
the XL Bell experience?
The XL Bell and that. It's just that was a very was a little bit of a surprise. I got slight surprise Senzel, Newman, Fairchild all in this lineup. And I know it's a lefty, and we got another lefty today, facing another lefty tonight, so we might see something similar. What was your thoughts on that?
It's tough for me to sit here and look at that lineup and the production that the Reds get out of some of their more consistent guys and to see all of those guys in the lineup at the same time. You're going to go to the platoon, and I understand the splits. I understand the numbers. I understand the Excel sheet. I understand the analytics. And I thought, Elliot made a great video on Twitter last night talking about the analytics crowd versus the I played high school ball crowd, which made me crack up, but it's true.
It is.
It's true because it's exactly what everybody was arguing last night, where it's on paper, that's the lineup you should be putting out, but then you watch the game with your eyes and you're saying, do I really want all 3 of those guys stacked up in the lineup, and then defensively putting Kevin Newman out there at second base where, Trace and Nick Kirby talked about this extensively on Chatterbox Reds last night, the debate between Kevin Newman and Spencer Steer, where Spencer Steer has been as versatile as he's had to be, whether he's played second or the outfielder. God knows where that man's going to – that man shows up to the clubhouse every day. He looks at that lineup card and he says, let's just go. Let's tie on those cleats. Let's put that belt on. Let's throw a jersey over my head, and let's get out there and play baseball. He has no idea where he's going to play every day, and he just goes out there and tries to produce the best he can. I'd rather have Spencer Steer out there
Me too.
than Kevin Newman. I know Nick Kirby was on the other side of that take last night, but I just don't understand how you can justify what they put out there last night consistently.
Yeah.
Time in and time out when you see the results over and over. And in a series like this, too, where you have a chance over the next 3 games going into last night. You have a chance over the next 3 games to be able to really put a stamp on this series, to be able or on this season, really. If you go out there and you win 3 of 4 against the Cubs, I mean, maybe you even sweep the Cubs, they're out of the race.
Right.
Okay, 8 games back with whatever, 58 to play or whatever it is. All right. They're still hanging around. But all intents and purposes, they're out of the race. Now you're playing for a series split, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I think everybody here realistically listening to this show is going to say that they'd be happy with a split, which tells you that you win one more game up there in Chicago. Hopefully for Elliott's sake, that game is tonight. I don't want to see Elliott having to get wet. Nobody likes to get wet more than that guy.
He does.
Can you give us has he always like that? Has he always been like that?
No, this is new. Like this whole get wet thing. The degenerate gambling has been a problem for a while, but the get wet, no, this is a new shtick. And we don't do shticks on Wednesdays, but
it is no shtick Wednesday.
It's no shtick Wednesday. But Elliott, this get wet thing it's taken on a life of its own. It's come out of the blue. But the gambling thing has and will always be, he'll always be looking for that. He'll always be oh no, I'd always joke with Elliott. So how much do you think? A couple years ago, I would joke with him. I'd be, so how much do you think you've lost? He's like, there would be times where he's like, probably not that much. I'm probably pretty close to even. And I just roll my eyes, but that's just how it goes. That's just the zebra.
Are we in the trust tree, Casey? Are we in the trust tree?
Yeah.
Paul, we are in the trust tree.
So last night it was 5-1. I took the Reds live plus 4.5.
I was afraid of that.
I saw the Reds score that second run. I thought, man, I'm the smartest guy in the room. Got a little busy, checked in a few minutes later. It was 7-2, then it was 10-2. I think I watched every pitch after it was 10-2.
Same.
Brutal. I just kept thinking, maybe the Reds can make a little run here. And then after it was, 7 or 8-2, David Bell left Ben Lively in that game last night as a sacrificial lamb. He said, you are going to go out there and throw until your arm falls off. And by God, we are not going to use anybody else out of this bullpen if that means that we're going to have to lose this game 40-0 by a major league record.
That's what I thought that was kind of important though, because the last thing you want to do is Lively goes 2 and then you're stuck covering, however many.
It was a smart move.
They kind of had to, right? You had to at least he ended up going 4, right? I think he got you through 4.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was 4. So, I mean,
4.
yeah, that was kind of they almost had, once the game gets that at it, once it's 10-2, it's you might as well. There's no sense in and I know, the poor guy ends up giving up 13, but it's you got this bullpen we know has been taxed enough as is, right? We have 3 of the guys that lead the NL in relief appearances, which just blows my mind. And then Alex Young, I think, is one behind those guys. So it's kind of you're already dealing with a taxed bullpen. It was kind of a necessity for him to squeeze everything he could out of Ben Lively.
Ben Lively in the last 2 months, he hadn't had a start since June 9th. His last 6 starts hadn't had a start where he'd allowed more than 3 earned runs. He went since that start on June 9th, where he gave up 7 runs. That was a loss to the Cardinals. His run total was 2-2, 1-1, 3-2 going into last night. Hadn't given up more than 3 home runs in a game all year. Gave up 4 last night. Strikeout totals had always been fairly low. He's not a big strikeout guy.
Sure.
But last night, only 2. I mean, it seemed like there was he hasn't earned a win since June 14th. Wow. He's been on the winning end of a game 2 times in that stretch, but he didn't actually get the win. So the Reds have won 2 of his starts. They won the game at home against Colorado, and they won the Arizona game here. But mixed in there are losses to Milwaukee, 1-0.
Yeah.
Classic. You just pencil that in. Second loss to Milwaukee, third loss to Milwaukee. So 3 of those games in the last he pitched 4 times in July. 3 of those starts in July were against the Brewers. You want to go out there if you're a pitcher like him and you're so frustrated because you're not getting any run support, you're not pitching. I mean, you're getting in the month of July, he got 3 runs of support in 3 starts against the Brewers.
Yeah.
Two of those 3 starts against the Brewers, the Reds were shut out. That can't happen. But it's the Brewers. So what else do you expect? It's the Brewers. Ben Lively last night was due for a regression. It was his shortest outing since all the way back on May 15th when he only went 2 1/3 innings. But he threw 4 innings last night, allowed 13 runs, all earned. I saw it was the first time ever in Major League history that somebody had allowed, what was the stat? 13 earned runs
and 4 home runs
and 4 home runs in less than 4 innings or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever happened last night, it was quite literally the worst start
Yeah.
in Major League history. Let's put it that way. I don't know what the stat was. All you need to know is that last night was quite literally the worst start in Major League history. And it came at an untimely time for the Reds because it was 4 hours. The loss happened, 4, 5, 6 hours after the trade deadline, after that window had closed. And so you had all the keyboard warriors on Twitter screaming about how the Reds didn't make a move for a starter, didn't do anything at the trade deadline that was worth anything. The Reds were losing 20-9 last night, whether they made a move yesterday or not. Because nobody that they trade for yesterday, it's not like they're going to trade for Justin Verlander and he's going to fly from New York and make a start 2 hours later. That's not how things work, and fans are smart enough to know that. But the optics of not making a move and then immediately getting your doors blown off in one of the most embarrassing fashions probably in a long time for the Reds, especially this year. I don't think they had a more embarrassing performance this year than last night because nothing went right last night. No. Pitching, defense, maybe hitting. If there's one good thing last night,
the bats.
The bats against Justin Steele.
Yes.
And I thought the Cowboy on Bally Sports made a great point that you could see. I don't know if it was after Stevenson's home run or what swing it was, but you could see after a home run last night, Justin Steele kind of hung his head, and he was frustrated. He was shaking his head, kind of rolling his eyes. Cowboy goes, you can tell that Justin Steele gained no confidence pitching last night against the Reds. He has not pitched well against the Reds every time he has gone out there this season, and it happened again last night.
Yeah, somehow Tyler Stevenson, I mean, he has his number big time. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, though. Like, obviously, there are the Reds fans on Twitter. I'm not going to play Monday morning quarterback and overreact because it's one game, and, of course, the optics look, the optics look bad, but I'm not going to overreact to one game right after the trade deadline. Look, Ben Lively, say what you want, has been more than serviceable. You ran down the numbers, right? It's the biggest problem with him has been, run support, and, he's not a big strikeout guy, but, I mean, coming into this season, we didn't think Ben Lively was going to throw a pitch for this team. So for him to have come in, sure, he had a bad outing, right? He gave up 13 runs, but, we talked about it. The first inning, things kind of broke not his way, and maybe a ground ball that Kevin Newman plays, things go a little bit differently. The ERA is obviously now over 5. It's just kind of how it goes. It was a bad night, but I don't want it to like let people. I don't want people to lose sight of just like, all right, it's one game, right? It's one game. I know Trace always says it. Kirby, it's 1 of 162, right? Baseball's a weird game. And guess what? We got B. Will on the mound tonight, who's pitched very well. I'm not super like it's as much as it sucked last night. Like we got our tails kicked, right? But I'm not that concerned, right? Like it's not. I'm not going to sit here and play Monday morning quarterback and say they should have went and gone and gotten a starting pitcher. Now I'm not saying like like I would have enjoyed had they had gone out and got a starting pitcher, but I don't think it's like, see, they didn't trade for a starting pitcher. Time to panic. Like
Yep.
I'm not going to go that far. I think that's just kind of, hindsight. Obviously, you're going to win every argument if you play the hindsight game. So, yeah, I'm totally fine with staying the course, and we can talk about that a little bit. Unless you have other stuff about the game.
Well, I do have a couple of points I want to make about Justin Steele and how he has pitched against the Cubs in his career. So last night was his 8th game against the Reds in his career. In that time, he has given up more runs against the Reds. He has given up more runs to the Reds than any other team that he has pitched against by a fairly wide margin. So the Reds have tagged Justin Steele in 8 games for 28 runs. The next closest is 17. That's the Brewers, but he's made 4 more starts against the Brewers in that time. He's made 12 starts against the Brewers and only allowed 17 runs. 8 starts against the Reds, 28 runs on 45 hits, 11 doubles. That's the most. No other team is even in double figures there. A triple, 5 homers, and 10 walks and 33 strikeouts. I mean, there's something about the Reds going against Justin Steele. It just doesn't click for him. It just doesn't click. Which, again, if you're going to take some positives away from last night, you got to do something. You got to be able to go back in the locker room last night, shake it off like that game never happened,
Absolutely.
And say, all right, fellas, what do we got? What's good here? What do we have? What can we at least take away that's some kind of a positive? And that's about all you got. I don't think it's for nothing, given the fact that the Reds still have to play the Cubs one more time this year. So it's not for nothing, because he'll make one more start against the Reds, assuming and that's a 4-game series.
Right.
That's a doubleheader on Friday, Saturday, Sunday against the Reds over Labor Day weekend. He'll make another start, assuming everything is on track for him. And the Reds get a little confidence.
Sure.
Not bad. Then you look at what Marcus Stroman has done or not done over the last month. Reds get a little success in there. 5 runs should put you in a good position. 5 runs against the starter should put you in a good position to win a Major League Baseball game. Didn't last night, but it should.
No doubt. I think, like you said, like the Stroman thing, too, he struggled. Like, it could be worse. And the rest of the Cubs rotation, I'm not like, you're not shaking in your boots tonight facing Drew Smyly. And, Jamison Tyon's pitched better, but again, he's okay, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, if there's anything, like you said, any positives, we for whatever reason, it's like Steele's the left-handed version of Adam Wainwright. We have his number, right? Like we have, I don't know what it is. We have his number. It certainly beats like the Paul. I don't know if you remember this, but like I remember in like 2000, like the mid 2000s. It was always the worst whenever the Reds had to face Roy Oswalt, because that guy owned the. I don't know what the numbers were, but I think he went 20-3 against the Reds or something like that. It was like, so I'll take any decent pitcher we can own, like we can see against, see well, or rock every time we face him for whatever reason. Hey, that's a positive. Add Justin Steele to that list. It's better than being on the Roy Oswalt, who, God, I think we went like multiple years. We were fit playing the Astros, however many times a year, 20 times a year. He would shove it every time, and I'd have to look up it was just like crazy. But Roy Oswalt. Yeah,
Roy Oswalt did have some pretty good numbers against the Reds.
He owned us.
The Reds only hit .242 against him. Slugged .374. I mean, they.
Yep.
Real time, this is great podcasting. They did not play very well. I won't list all the stats off, but you're right.
Yeah.
Roy Oswalt was no fun against the good old Cincinnati Redlegs back. Everett Henry points out right now. No fun. Horrible every time. Yeah. Roger Clemens when he was on the Astros. God, that was way back when.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. But it is wild when you get into a game like last night. And you have a play like that from Kevin Newman in the first inning. You think sometimes about, a football game where, maybe you throw a pick six on the second try. Like, you come down and score and you throw a pick six on the next drive, and then all of a sudden a team has momentum. They come down and score on the next offensive drive, and things kind of get out of hand. Maybe your team is up 7-3. Bengals are up 7-3 in the first quarter, and they're on the 5-yard line. Burrow throws a 95-yard pick six. It's 10-7. Then whoever it is comes down, scores again, 17-7, and the whole game changes. Whereas if it's 14-3, it's a totally different complexion of the game. Then it ends up being a blowout. That's kind of what it feels like last night. Maybe Ben Lively was always due for a blowout. Maybe the plan was always just to trot him out there and get as many pitches out of him as possible. And God bless Luke Maley for giving it his all.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about making a play like that in the first inning, inspiring some confidence, getting some outs, setting the table, getting the Reds order to come back up in the second inning, and maybe not being so bad, maybe being scoreless, maybe being only down 1 or 2-0. That's a whole lot different than 5-0 before you even record an out. Whole lot different. Casey, you had something that you've been trying to play here for a few minutes.
Oh no, I just have the highlights. If we wanted to see the errors and whatnot.
Oh yeah, baby, let's go. Run them, Casey. Run them.
So was the first.
So there's the double play that should have been made by Kevin Newman. It should have been 2 outs right here.
He's got to make that play.
Should have been 2 outs. Should have been 2 outs.
This is horrible.
What?
That is just unexcusable.
That's
my question again is, why even throw that ball?
Exactly.
It's almost as if he realized that and couldn't figure it out mid-throw.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where maybe you don't want to throw the ball and you spike it into the ground or whatever. He did the opposite. He just said, I'm going to just sail this thing into center field. And then from there, the game was over from there.
Everything.
The game was over from there.
Everything unraveled.
But it just... Yeah, all right. We can end this misery, Casey. Yeah, we can end this misery. We can end it. So from here, now, the trade deadline, it's come and gone. Haven't talked about that yet. Reds make one move. Is it Sam Moll or Maul? Everybody was arguing on Twitter yesterday. Gordon Whitmire said it was Maul, but the Baseball Reference page says Moll.
I thought it was Maul, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But it does say Mole on Baseball Reference.
It does say Mole. So I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way,
we'll have to figure it out.
Reds go out and get their lefty reliever. It's not a big splash. It's not a big move. It's not one that's going to, really make any national waves, national headlines. We talked about it yesterday. But the Reds stand pat. They said that they didn't want to give up anything huge, that they didn't want to give up anything big in return for anybody that needed to make a move, and they stand pat. Zach, your thoughts on what the Reds did or did not do at the trade deadline?
I selfishly, as the deadline was kind of, I was sitting there with a couple hours to go. I was hoping for Eduardo Rodriguez. I was kind of like,
which we will talk more about.
We will talk more about that. We'll talk a lot more about that. I was kind of hoping for that move. That would have been. I think that would have been a great ad. He's pitched really well, but he's a guy who has an opt out, and I know that maybe makes his value kind of tough to track. But I also kind of look at it. I mean, outside of that, I mean, who else really was realistic for the Reds to go out and grab? Maybe a Paul Blackburn.
Yep.
But there's not going to be a interdivision trade with, Flaherty, and I don't even think Flaherty's that great anyway. I think he's, average, and maybe that would have helped. But I look at it, and I'm okay with trusting in Nick Krall. And at the end of the day, he, didn't want to give up prospects for Eduardo Rodriguez or whoever. Verlander I don't think was a realistic option, right? He was going to Houston or the Dodgers probably, and he got his wish. I'm not gonna, I'm not bringing out the pitchfork because we didn't grab a starter. You could always use a starter, right? And especially us with how much wear and tear on the bullpen has had that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm not that mad. I think the lefty reliever was really one of the more important things. I thought that was the most realistic thing they were going to get. I think I wrote that I thought they'd get Brent Suter. They end up going with Sam Maul. So I'm totally fine with it. And watching Sam Maul pitch last night, I mean, he's got a kind of a funky delivery. He's not going to change. I don't think he's going to change the course of the franchise or anything like that. But I think it was a nice get. You add a second lefty to help Alex Young out, who, has done a great job, but, you just need that extra arm. Paul, I'm not too stressed. Look, you have Hunter Green coming back, right? 2.5, 3 weeks. And sure, we don't know. We don't know exactly what Hunter Green's going to look like, but I'll say this. He came off injury last year, and when he came back, he was one of the best pitchers in the National League. And the good news is I was watching MLB Network, and they were talking, look, the good news with Lodolo and Green is it's not like they're dealing with arm injuries, right? Like it's a hip and it's a shin. It could be a lot worse. They don't have the wear and tear on the arm. So we'll see with Lodolo. He's probably, September? But Hunter
Maybe.
Green's two and a half weeks away, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a big – I don't like being like that's your trade deadline move, but that's a big deal, right? Like you push Luke Weaver out of the rotation. Hunter Green's got a spot. Hopefully he can look like the guy that came back from injury at the second half of last year, and he was starting to pitch well this year. And then you have Connor Phillips, too. He's pitching really well. He's a guy that, look, if it gets bad enough with Luke Weaver, if it gets bad enough with Ben Lively, maybe he's a guy you turn to. He's pitched solid. I think he was 5 shutout innings last night in Louisville. Again, you don't want to put too much pressure like this guy's got to be a savior, but he's an option. I think Lyon Richardson down in Louisville, who they just moved up to Louisville, could be an option. He's pitched he started most games this year, but he's only gone 3 or 4 innings. They could use a long man like that, a guy who could come in. He's in a situation like last night, mop up or something like that. So it's not like they have no internal options. They have, multiple guys. I know, Vladimir Gutierrez, I don't know how much you're going to count on him. TJ Anton, the same. Who knows? He hasn't pitched in 2 years. But, Hunter Green, to me, that's significant, right? 2.5 weeks. We gotta make it 2.5 more weeks. And then hopefully you get Hunter Green back. And hopefully he pitches similar to the guy we saw before the injury and late in the season last year. And Nick Krall just decided, all right, I'm not going to delve into my prospect pool. I feel good about what we have, and maybe it's something you revisit in the offseason, right? You're going to have more. There's going to be more options in the offseason, and I thought this year it was kind of a crappy deadline as a whole. There wasn't really much that happened, and I think part of that had to do with the sellers. There weren't a ton of sellers, right? I think there's 20-something teams are within 4 games of a playoff spot this year, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of teams. Like the Cubs decided that they were going to go buy. The Mariners, I know people were talking, maybe they give up one of their starters, but I think they would have had to get, something that would have made them over the moon to trade one of those, like the Logan Gilberts, the Kirbys. I didn't think that was ever realistic. Same with the Pirates and Mitch Keller. That didn't seem realistic.
There were a lot of trades that, looking back on this whole deadline now, were never an option.
No.
There were a lot of suggestions. There were a lot of things that people talked about, names that got thrown out on Twitter or here in the chat or whatever it might have been that we talked about. We spent the last month and a half talking about that were never going to be options for a trade. Casey, you have a video here. This is Nick Krall talking with Jim Day. Uh-oh. Did you get rid of it?
No, I was just going to mention,
here we go.
too, I mean, they lost their biggest trade piece to the IL. You can't trade people on the IL. Jonathan India.
That's right.
So, I mean, when it came down to the very end, when they made an actual trade, I mean, like the day before, right, or hours before the end of the deadline, I mean, they could have had something up their sleeve, but they weren't able to make it happen. So, I mean, I'm in favor of what they did, honestly. I didn't want them to change anything. I think, like we've said over and over again, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo coming back is your deadline. And I was just doing the mental math here about Lively.
You got in the lab?
Yeah, and
what
he plays Toronto, Diamondbacks, and the Giants. And then by then we're in September, which is very, very easy schedule for the Reds, and we might be getting Lodolo back at that point. So if we could just push through the next couple of the rest of this month, right? I mean, he's only got 3 more games that are really, really scary. I mean, the other 2 that he plays is Pittsburgh and Washington. I'm not really scared about him playing against those guys. So 3 games. That's all we got really left with him to really be afraid of how he's going to perform. But let's hear what.
So yes, this is Nick Kroll last night. He joined Jim Day on the broadcast to talk about the trade deadline and what the Reds did or did not do. You'll hear from him right here.
We talked for the last couple of days. You know, we were in LA and then came here. You know, we started this morning at about 8:30 and just couldn't get something done. You know, we had lots of conversations. You know, we probably made 100 calls, 200 texts just today and yesterday, and it just at the end of the day just didn't work out.
Why does not making a deal today make sense for this club right now?
You know, I think that we're a team that's built from within, and we're trying to build through scouting and player development, and we just didn't find a deal that made sense for us. You know, we could have given up guys that are on this major league team. We could have given up some guys that are close. We could have given up some top-end guys, but at the end of the day, for just some short-term game, it just didn't make sense for what we were trying to do.
I think that was well put.
I do.
I think it was well put by Nick. It's transparent, and he's been open and transparent pretty much the whole time with things like this. And I would say, as a lot of people, again, have said on social media the last week or so, he's earned our trust.
Absolutely.
He has done enough with this organization now over the last few years and building things up to get to this point, to the point where the Reds are competitive and where they are in first place on August 2nd, and they are 6 wins away, depending on where you got it, from their win total on the season. Last year, you're talking about a team that completely sold pieces away and was completely uncompetitive, and now you're in first place, on August 2nd. One little underlying point there from that video, Elly De La Cruz striking out over the course of that interview.
Yeah.
Last week when I was sitting up here hosting, I asked about Joey Votto. And now I understand that Votto is good in his spots. He's not an everyday player. He's somebody that you're going to put up there in his spots when he needs to play, not when he has to play every day, but when he needs to play due to the pitching matchup, he'll go in there. Do we need to have a conversation about Elly De La Cruz? Do we need to? His plate discipline right now is awful.
Yes.
It is terrible.
Exactly.
It is really bad. I mean, that 3-0 pitch that he swung at 2 nights ago, I know the Reds won, but that 3-0 pitch that he swung at 2 nights ago that was ball 4, it's not like, again, I said this yesterday on the air. If you swing 3-0, fine.
Right.
If it's a fastball down the middle, it's like your coach will always tell you, you look for one pitch. If that pitch is not right there, wherever your pitch is, no matter what that pitch is, curveball, slider, change, fastball, doesn't matter. Your pitch and your spot, you swing at it. If it's not that, don't swing. 3-0. I know he's 21. He's young. He's been in the league for a month. I'm not worried about him.
Right.
I want to make that very clear right now. I'm not worried about him. But the strikeout rate and the plate discipline is tough to watch. In the leadoff spot, they've tried the leadoff thing. It's not working. It's not working.
Right. Well, I was, it's weird because I think that was something we were kind of cautioned of coming up when he was coming up in Louisville. Like, all right, the plate discipline might not be great, but early on it felt like he was pretty good, like at recognizing pitches and like laying off stuff. But it just has felt like he's trying to do too much, right? Like he'll get down, he gets down in the count so fast because he's chasing, right? And that's, to me, I don't know how concerned I am, because every time I feel like I'm about to say I'm starting to get concerned, he'll come back and have like a 4-hit game. So, but I think there is some merit to, like, maybe you move him back down, right? Because right now, you have plenty of, the Reds have plenty of guys that can hit leadoff, right? I think, and that's the thing. Will Benson you could put him in there, or you could go back to Friedel. I think there's a bunch of guys.
I'd probably go back to Friedel.
They could go back to Friedel. I think that would make a lot of sense. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit the plate discipline. It has been rough though. Like it's just an adjustment he's gonna have to make. And I think we knew that's when you're a rookie, when you're 21, there's a lot of growing pains, and I feel like we've been a little bit spoiled, right? With like Matt McClain, it feels like he's been unbelievably good. Steer's been great. We've had these rookies, they've come up. There haven't been a lot of growing pains, and Ellie's kind of going through that right now. I wonder if do you move him down to maybe 5th in the lineup and just say like, hey, like you're not. We put Friedel up there at leadoff or whoever, Will Benson, whoever it might be, because right now it's just I don't know what it is, but it's just, is he trying to do too much, right? Like he gets down in the counts and it's the breaking balls, man. It's the breaking balls in the dirt. It's just like, because early on it felt like he had a pretty good feel. Especially that first couple series, felt like, wow, he's had a pretty good feel of the strike zone, and maybe that's just the matter of pitchers have kind of, maybe they found something, they saw something, films come out, but long term, I'm not concerned. Like it's not like I'm concerned, but it's all right. Maybe you take a step back, move him down, maybe another day off or something. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to the strikeout rate's high.
Let me put it this way.
High.
He in games that he has at least 3 at bats. So I'm not talking about if he just gone in there one time, which he did a couple weeks ago. In games where he has had at least 3 at bats, his last 11 games he has at least 1 strikeout, and 18 of his last 19 in which he has struck out at least 1 time. A lot of those games, multiple strikeouts. Last night, 3 strikeouts. Night before, 3 strikeouts. A few nights ago against LA, 2. 3 before that, 2 before that. The strikeout rate is really, really, really high. Because, like you said, I think you make a really good point where you're digging yourself into bad counts, you're getting behind, then you're pressing the issue. You have to be disciplined enough knowing your role that Ellie has on this team. He's not going to go out there and hit you 40 home runs a year. He has the power to do that if he runs into him, but he's not a 40 home run a year type of guy. So the difference is his build and his character as a player tells you that he would be a good leadoff guy. Sure. You get him on, you get him over, you get him in. So in your head, you're thinking, all right, let's get the fastest guy in baseball to first base as quickly as possible before we get the meat of our lineup up to the plate. But when you're not getting on base and you're a liability and you're an automatic strikeout at the top of the lineup, you can't be having that. The difference is that he's so early in his career. There is a small part of me that doesn't mind him batting leadoff just to get the most amount of at-bats,
right,
to get the most amount of experience.
Sure.
I don't necessarily mind throwing him up there at the top of the order just to simply see more pitches at the major league level. There is that to it. Because if he gets on base, he's dangerous.
Absolutely. He doesn't even need to be like an elite on base guy. Like we don't need a 370, 380 on base. But it's just like, man, when you have a guy like him, just a little bit, and it was, hate to make the Billy Hamilton comparison because he's obviously way more talented, but a little bit of plate discipline just goes a long way, because if he can just get on, he's just one of those guys where it's like, man, if he just gets on base, because we've seen, you don't need to be a brain surgeon to figure out, okay, we've seen this guy, the Milwaukee game where he stole second, third, and home. It's like, he's such a game changer. Just a little bit. Like
you just got to get him on base.
The strikeouts, it's going to happen with a guy like that. Like he's probably going to have a little bit of a higher strikeout rate than most guys, but if he can just turn a couple of more of those turn some of those strikeouts into walks, even, or because even he can beat out ground balls. Like he can probably beat out a handful of extra ground balls going to short or third, that other side of the infield. So it's like, just a couple of those strikeouts, flipping those to walks, it's like that can be a difference in a game, right? Like when you have a guy like that. So just to me, it's just the strikeout rate. It's just the strikeout rate, and I think he's going to be fine. But that's to me the biggest thing. It's high, but long term, I think we're fine. He's fine. He's talented. He's incredibly talented.
It is making me real sad.
Who's
Just
making you
sad. Just straight up sad. You know who's making me real sad?
Who's making you sad?
Just
Paul?
feel really down inside. Tyler Stevenson.
Okay.
Because I really want to love him.
Me too.
I really do. I really do. And I just keep giving him second chances and third chances and fourth chances. But man, oh man.
It's time to stop, man.
Oh my goodness. What are we doing? I feel so bad because every time he crouches down behind the plate, I'm going, this is the night. This is the night he turns it around. He swung the bat all right last night.
Right.
Swung the bat all right. Home run. My God, he can't catch. Man.
It's tough.
Well, Paul, what is the Casale? Because the 3 catcher thing we did, Casale's hurt now. What is the solution? Like, do you go Maley more often? Do you?
What is Kirk Casale doing? Is my guy just sitting there on the bench eating sunflower seeds, grabbing the free packs of peanuts, getting to travel around the world,
what dirt
getting
does he
catered, eating the team meals,
what does he
using
know?
the strength room? What's he doing? I'd love to live that life. I could be living that life right now. I could live the Kirk Casale life. My frame doesn't suggest that, but I could. I'd be doing the same purpose. Morale, baby. Team morale. Let's get him out there. Let's get him out there, have some fun. What is he doing? It's not his. I mean, I guess it kind of is his fault, but it's not his fault he's not playing.
Left foot contusion, man. That's the left foot bruise.
Bruce on his
They're saying
foot.
toxic Paul.
I don't know why. I don't know why that's toxic. I understand he's. I understand he's hurt. But the 3 catcher thing it's run its course, right?
I think so.
It's run its course.
What was the initial plan? Does anyone here remember what Stevenson's initial plan was supposed to be?
Well,
it was 60 games at first base, 60 games behind the plate, and then what was the remainder?
DH a lot, probably. But
Have we even come close to following that?
No. But what do we do? Like what?
I don't know what you do. I mean,
Maley catch significant? I don't know about significantly more, but like, is he catching more days than Stevenson now, or like, what do you?
I don't know.
I think you do.
I mean, it's like.
So when Casale comes back, what's the play? When he comes back, what's the play?
I don't know.
Because even before, before he was hurt, he was not playing that much.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
What's the point of Casale coming back? Essentially, if he's not, because he played once every other.
Chucky.
Elliott would
dial in Elliott.
Elliott would do a cartwheel if they brought Chucky in. Elliott would be tickled. I don't know. I don't know if Chucky Robinson's the. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Even long term. Like, do we think this is something like Stevenson can fix in the off season? Like, is this long term?
God, I hope so.
Like, because it's bad. Everything's pretty bad.
Well, we sat up here, a month ago and said maybe the best solution is for him to take more catches, and it's just been backfiring like crazy. Yeah. I mean, he's been awful.
Not good.
And not good at all. And honestly, I'm ready to just have Malley be the catcher because we've got plenty of really good batters. Like, I don't know. You tell me this. In the lineup, is it really that big of a difference between Stevenson and Malley?
No.
Is it really that big of a
difference? Not at this point. Not value-wise. Not right. Value-wise in what you get with Malley behind the plate defensively. Because the thing that I get so frustrated with Tyler Stevenson is I don't want to knock. I like the guy so much that I don't want to knock the effort. But there are some plays. I feel like I got to put my chair down here a little bit. There are some times where he won't even make an effort to frame the ball.
No.
Like again, to Reed's point, where the K zone has kind of ruined baseball. There are pitches that will cross the K zone, but if you're set up on the inside of the plate and then you move your glove because the pitcher's coming over to the outside part of the plate, and you move your glove, and the glove keeps moving, and your momentum carries the glove across as you receive the ball, the umpire is going to call that a ball 10 times out of 10. But it might have been a strike if you could have maybe just framed it a little bit or kept it there. It almost makes me wonder, is that taxing mentally on the pitchers to know that they're not going to get any help out of their catcher behind the plate?
It has to be.
I really don't want to sit here and knock him because I feel like there's something there.
Absolutely.
But it's almost like you're just not getting the effort to a certain point.
Well, I think and the thing is, I think we're the attachment we have to Stevens is because we've seen him be like he's a good major league hitter. I know this year he hasn't been great, but I think he's a more than capable big league hitter, right? And I think last year the thought was this is kind of one of the cornerstone guys. I think you could find me. Unfortunately, someone could probably find it where I was on record saying I think he's our next Buster Posey. Boy, that hasn't aged incredibly well.
But he had so much promise.
He did.
I mean, there was so much potential there from him that now, with the dink and dunk offensive approach at the plate, he runs into one every once in a while. You saw it last night. But this little, kind of dink and dunk, you're slapping it around, balls are getting through his legs. It's not like it's, every third game he makes one massive error. There's a difference in catching where, every third game, yes, it's a wild pitch, but it probably should have been a pass ball because it gets through the wickets. But this is consistently costing your pitchers strikes because you're just not putting the glove where it needs to be.
Right.
A lot. Multiple times a game, which is too much. One a game you can excuse maybe in the fourth inning if you're up a couple runs and, your glove slides across the zone. This is consistently time in and time out the same deal over and over again. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because there's a lot of times as sports fans, look, we're all meatball sports fans here. We're all just a bunch of clowns sitting around here talking about sports, thinking we know something when we don't know anything. We don't know a thing. We don't know what happens in that Major League clubhouse every day. We can sit up here for 2 hours every day and think we know what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we're not sitting up there in the clubhouse. We don't know what they're talking about. We don't know what Tyler Stevenson is working on in the batting cages and the tunnels down below the stadium. But it's frustrating as a sports fan at the very basic level, at the core of watching games night in and night out like we do in baseball. Where football, maybe it's a little harder because of scheme. Basketball, it might be a little harder because you're not seeing things develop the same way, whatever it might be, the IQ of the game. But pretty much any baseball fan that has watched any game for any amount of time could sit there and tell you how to frame a pitch or get frustrated when you see a ball cross the strike zone and it not be called a strike because of an effort level. It grinds my gears. It grinds my gears. It really does. If only the Reds could have signed a Division III catcher out of Bluffton.
That's what there's. Start read a catcher. # start read a catcher.
So we have a couple of more things we're going to talk about. I do have something that I guess I should share from this morning. So this morning I did a workout at 7:45. I'm not a morning workout person. Today was a baseline test. A friend of mine, her mom's a personal trainer. His mom's a personal trainer. Was helping me out. Wanted to get a baseline test. Again, I'm going to ask for the second time in the show. Are we in the trust tree? Chat, are we in the trust tree? Fellas, I threw up 10 minutes into this workout. I got on the bike. I did the bike as hard as I could for 1 minute. I threw up everything I had eaten for breakfast. Came back, did 2 more circuits, kept throwing up.
This was a bad.
It was bad.
This was a bad idea.
It was bad. It was not good. It was a very poor performance from Paulie. I've been working out for a while, but there hasn't been a lot of cardio. There's been a lot of strength training, not a lot of cardio.
Maybe we start next time with a brisk. I do like.
I've been purely doing weight training for about. So my goal was to gain Look. Everybody sitting here, we all know. You look at me. I'm 26 years old, about to turn 27. I look like I'm 18. There's nothing here. But there was a whole lot less here than there was about a year ago. I'm up about 20 pounds in the last year. My goal was 40.
Hard body fall. We got to get rid of it.
My goal was 40, which sounds like crazy. And there's a lot of people that are listening to this chat right now or listening to this in a podcast going, 40 pounds? What are you talking about? If you knew where I was last year, going from about 162, where I looked rail thin, to now 180, my goal was to be about 200. I'm 6'3", almost 6'4". I should be about 200. Maybe a little less than 2. My goal was about 195 by the time I get married next year in June. So I'm at 180 right now, 181. But I haven't really done anything with cardio. It's been purely strength training. That cardio today, I hopped in there. Fellas, I was puking my brains out. Now, the skyline last night for dinner didn't help. The skyline for dinner that I saw in the toilet didn't help.
I mean, you said you were doing sprints, right? You were doing sprints? Or
Yeah.
were you running a mile? I run a mile every time I work out. Mandatory. That's the first thing I do is go in and run a mile, try to get it within like 8 minutes.
8 minutes? I don't know if I could do an 8-minute mile. I think I probably could. I think over the last year, I think a year ago, if you asked me that question, I probably couldn't. I think if my life depended on it, I could do an 8-minute. 8-minute mile's not crazy. 8-minute mile's not crazy.
You could get it within 6 if your life depended on it. I mean, at the rate that you were going today, puking your brains out, I think you'd get it in 6.
6-minute mile, Paul.
6 minutes. There is 0% chance.
Let's do that. How about we train you? Like, how about we do like see if you can do a 6-minute mile.
But if I'm doing cardio, then I'm just gonna end up thin again.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, I'm already thin. I'm already very thin. But for being 6'3", 6'4", I look like a string bean.
So how often are you gonna do this? Do this to yourself? The early morning 7:45.
I think it's twice a week.
Okay. All right.
Twice a week.
Still a better man than I, man. I can't get. To me, like, I'm the last guy to talk about the workouts. I mean, you can see the noodle arms, but a brisk walk every 5 days a week. Like, I'll do like a mile walk. Or maybe a light jog. That's enough for me. I need to hit the weights. We'll get there, but I'm a big just like get off my butt and exercise guy. You're going for the all right, I'm 6'4", I'm trying to add a little meat on these bones. That's why I'm on the novice level of just we start with the brisk walk, then maybe we'll do a little more your cardio, actually try and get into maybe shape with meat on my bones. But
it was tough because I was in there and I got about 5 minutes into it. And so we finished on the bike, and we go over to start doing another weight set, circuit, and I could feel it. I could feel it happening, and I didn't know where the bathroom was. So I asked my friend. I was like, "Hey, where's the bathroom?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's right around the corner. I'll walk you over there." We got about halfway to the bathroom. I said, "You need to walk faster, bro. You need to walk faster." So I didn't want to let him know what was about to happen. I don't know if I barely made it into the bathroom. Made it in the bathroom. That is enough talk about that for 11 a.m. in the morning. But back to sports. Look, back to sports. Let me just read. I haven't really been reading the chat too much today. Where is Tom? Tom will be back a week from today. Tom is on vacation. I don't know where he's on vacation, but he's enjoying a vacation right now. Tom was out last week. He was taking his daughter down to college. He's back next Wednesday. So he's out this week, and then Monday and Tuesday next week on vacation. Somewhere in there, he's got to send Luke off to school too. So it'll be me and Casey. So Zach is with us today. Zach Freese, again, if you're listening on podcasts right now. Zach Freese over here to my left. He's a blogger now for Chatterbox Sports. You can read his stuff on chatterboxsports.com. Just click on the word. Zach, thanks again for joining today. We got about an hour left here. We're going to talk about a few more things. We're going to get into the Bengals tomorrow. Jay Morrison will join us at 10:30. We'll have Tracy Jones at 11:30. Friday, for the first time in this show started on September 1st last year, Casey has never once, one time, box lunch, you sat up here. Casey has never sat at this desk, though, for more than maybe 5 minutes at a time. Casey will be up here on Friday, so we'll be working through that. This show today. We're going to keep going through it. No guest today besides Zach, our special guest, our mystery guest that we had today. Zach will be on today, but again, Tuesday, Elliot will be back with us. Reed is gone all next week on vacation as well. It's kind of this week and next week is kind of vacation week at Chatterbox before the fall gets going, and we're doing some of the bash on Vine, and we're doing Bengals content, and we're doing UC content for football, and we're doing all these things that happen, some high school content in there as well. August, really September, October, November, December is a grinding stretch here at Chatterbox Sports. So now's the time for some people. Reed's going on a cruise, getting away. Are you a cruise guy? Look, we're gonna get back to sports, all right? We're gonna get back to sports, but the Reds lost 20-9,
exactly.
So bear with us, all right, everybody? Bear with us.
I gotta say, I've never been on a cruise, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a want to go on a cruise really. I don't know. I've been on one of those like whale watching things, and I thought I was gonna throw up.
Oh, really?
It was like out on Maine or Boston, just like up off the coast there. I'm not a huge cruise guy. Like that's not my thing. Boats. I mean, I went kayaking over the weekend. That was about enough.
Cabrewing?
That was about enough for me. It was up in Asheville. It was great. Like I enjoyed it. It wasn't like anything like waters were, calm and stuff like that. I'm not a cruise. I don't see myself. Beach, sand, sit there. I don't need to be moving. Let's just sit there.
Casey, you a cruise guy?
Never been on a cruise. I'm afraid to get on a cruise. My dad, he told me about his one time going out deep sea fishing, and I just don't want to experience that ever. I mean, you get sick, motion sickness at all, and you're just out there, and you don't want to be the guy to make everyone suffer and have to go back to the shore. So you're just trying to power through it, but people can get like really sick and get in like serious trouble from just dehydration, puking too much. No, I'm that's something that I would have to test with like a yacht first before getting on a giant cruise ship.
So my family, my uncle is a big fishing family, massive. I love fishing. I love deep sea fishing. I've done it many times. You go 150 miles off the coast and you do it for a day or two. It's a lot of fun. I've loved doing that. I've never been on a cruise. I think I want to do it one time, just to say I did it,
okay. Just
to experience it, just to say, I went on a cruise. I don't know if I need to do like a 14-day Mediterranean, Turkey, Greece, Sicily, the whole thing. I don't know if I need to do that, but 5, 6, 7 days to the Bahamas and something. You go off the coast of Florida, you kind of putter around in the Caribbean for a little bit. Yeah, I could do that for a few days. I could do that.
Are you a good fish? Like, are you an avid fisherman? Is that you?
Not avid. I do it when I get the invite.
Okay.
I do it when I get the invite, and I do what I'm told to do. Because the last thing I ever want to do when I go fishing is get in the way of anything going on.
Oh, yeah.
You can't fishing when you go out 150 miles off the coast and you leave at 11 p.m. or midnight and it's pitch black, and you go out and you are, I'm telling you, you go off the Jersey Shore and you are just straight out for 4 or 5 hours. The boat doesn't stop. You're just straight out through the chop for 4 or 5 hours, and you're 150 miles, and you turn the lights on, like the tally lights underneath the boat, and you can't see a thing anywhere except the fish that come and swim up right next to you. There is something. It's not for everybody.
No.
And it's spooky. One of the wildest things that ever happened, and boy, have we gotten off it now. But one of the wildest things that ever happened, one time we were going out there, we were probably 40. So usually you can see the coast about 10 miles. The horizon is about 10 miles when you get straight out. We were probably 30 or 40 miles off the coast. So we were getting out there a little bit. And you could see on the horizon a blinking red light. And this was one of my first times truly going way, 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 way out to sea. I was, 13, 14 years old. and there was a blinking red light straight away. We were off the Jersey Shore, about middle of the state. And I'm sitting there, and I hear my uncle, and I hear him going, maybe he was getting on the radio, or he's talking to my cousin who was his first mate, and they're talking about going toward this red light. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh my God, what is this? Is this an emergency situation? What are we doing here? Then we see it again. Then it disappears. Then we see it again. Then it disappears. And I'm going, what is this like? And we're never getting closer to it. It was in the direction we were going anyway, so we weren't, but we thought it was a ship in distress. We realized after about 20 or 30 minutes of going towards this light, it was planes coming across the horizon from Europe that were flying to New York. And they were their light on their plane would cross the horizon, then it would go into the clouds, and then it would fly back over us. But we didn't see an opening in the clouds. I mean, that is truly what you get when you're straight out there and things coming over the horizon. You get the sunrises and everything. That's 5 minutes that you never knew you needed on deep sea fishing. But since we're talking about cruises, yeah, it's something. I think I'll do it. I think I'll go on a cruise. I mean, maybe if I like it, you do more. But I think I'll do a cruise. I've thought about Alaskan cruises. Going up to Alaska, doing one of those.
Might be cool.
I've heard good things about the Alaskan cruises. Do it. One thing I would never do, though, one thing I don't know if you could pay me enough money to do would be, what's the show on Discovery? I watched, the crab fisherman. What's the show? Don't tell me. I'm not going to look at the chat. Deadliest Catch. Deadliest Catch. Yeah. Deadliest Catch. I don't know if there's any amount of money in the world that you could pay me to go be a fisherman on Deadliest Catch.
No. I'm not a fisherman. I've never been fishing, so I don't know if I ever will. So
I don't know if you could. Casey, would you ever go out to Alaska and do deep sea fishing?
Alaska?
Well, that they go up, off the coast of Seattle, and they go up there. And would you ever star on Deadliest Catch? I know your dad is a big fisherman.
Listen,
but it's a different kind of fishing.
My family's big into fishing. We had a fishing lure business. I would want to go somewhere tropical. If I was to go anywhere that was like super cold, probably wouldn't be a fan of it.
Bering Strait. Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So if that answers your question, yeah. I mean, I would do any deep sea fishing as long as it was warm.
All right. There is one person in the chat that is extremely disgusted with what they are listening to right now. Casey, I'm going to let you guess. Bonus points to Zach if he can figure this out. Casey, who do you think hated this last 8 minutes of this show the most? There's one person. There's one correct answer to this.
I mean, he's super into Cincinnati sports. Been a long time listener. I think it's Natty Ron, right?
It's Natty Ron, baby. Ronnie Smith has no interest in fishing. Nobody. Zach, let me introduce you to our good friend Ronnie Smith.
Yeah.
Nobody is a beacon of light. You're talking about fishing, a lighthouse, somebody guiding you home. That is Ronnie Smith.
Yeah.
Ronnie Smith knows that when things get off track, that this is a sports show. This is sports programming on your computer or your phone, wherever you listen. And by God, you better never waver from that.
That's what I've heard. I have seen Ron's a sports guy. He's he's steering us back. I respect that. Sometimes you need that.
All right, we do have something that is sports adjacent, a little segment we're going to do here. Yesterday, there was a trade. Zach, this was your segment, so I'm going to let you pitch it.
So there was a trade that, wasn't really a trade. Eduardo Rodriguez was supposedly traded to the Dodgers, but he has a no trade clause. So he nixed the deal. So with that, I created I thought of a segment that would be fun of what would be 3 cities that would be like in your no trade clause. What are the 3? They can just be the cities. Where would you not want to go, right? Paul, I'll ask you. Where would you
Do we want to go? Do you want me to list my 3, or do we want to go 1-1-1-1? I think we do that.
1-1-1.
Yeah, I think we do that.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 1, absolutely no doubt about it, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I would veto and nix a trade to Pittsburgh. It wouldn't. I think if I was asking for a contract, I might Eli Manning Pittsburgh. I might just say if I got drafted by the Pirates or the Steelers or the Penguins, I would nix that so fast it wouldn't. You could not. I'd retire on the spot. I'd retire. Not playing in Pittsburgh. Casey, you're up.
Oh man.
I think to me there is a correct answer for you. But we'll see. I'll see what you say.
I mean, number one. Come on. You guys know they stink up there.
Yep.
It's Cleveland. I would absolutely not. Cannot go to Cleveland. Would be horrible. I would have to veto it. Have to nix it.
Okay. So Cleveland's off my list. I'll think of another one. Go ahead.
I was going to say Cleveland, but I'm going to say a city that I think is sort of, and it's ironic. I'm going to say this. I think of it as similar to Cleveland, Detroit. You know, I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest in going and playing in Detroit. I know it's close to family, like it is for Eduardo Rodriguez on the East Coast. I think that's why he's cited. But Detroit, I have very little interest. Maybe I'm mean to Detroit. Maybe I have to go up there because I've never really been there. But it just feels very, very Cleveland to me. Like it does. It feels like it's a cousin of Cleveland, and I hate Cleveland and their stupid jokes about Cincinnati, Kentucky. Ha ha. Your river caught on fire. Okay, your river's on fire, guys.
Wake up.
Cincinnati, Kentucky jokes. So Cleveland, to me, it's like it's close enough to Cleveland to where I'm disinterested. I'd be disinterested in Detroit.
Oakland?
Yeah.
I think it would be a really hard sell to get me to go to Oakland.
Absolutely.
I think it would be a really, really hard sell for me to go all the way out here. I'm also thinking about it a little bit from living in Cincinnati and, going out west. He mentioned yesterday when he said he didn't want to go to LA that he wanted to be closer to family on the East Coast.
That's you.
Are we buying that? I don't know if I'm buying.
I don't know.
I think he just didn't want to go to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
What a move! What a move!
Hey, he got his shout out to his agent. His agent. I mean, he got a pretty good deal coming off a bad year. He got like 70-something million coming off a bad year. He got a 10-team no trade. That's good work by his agent.
Okay, Oakland is my number 2. Even though, yes, as it's pointed out in the chat, probably moving. I have an underrated number 3 that I'm going to save because I don't know if this is going to be taken. Casey, you're up next.
This is probably one that many of you probably don't have, and it is directly because I'm a Bengals fan, but I would not go to Baltimore. 1, it's cold, and 2...
Cold?
Cold, yeah. It gets cold in Baltimore.
I mean, it's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same as here.
I know.
It's on the same line.
I know.
All right, it's cold.
It's cold.
It's cold.
It's cold, and they stink too. So definitely nixing Baltimore. Would not go there.
See, Paul, you took Oakland. That was another one of mine.
Okay.
Almost no interest. I'm gonna say those scumbags over in St. Louis.
God, that was my third. I was hoping it would make it back to me.
No, I don't want to play in St. Louis. I don't need these. I don't need to be I don't need to play for the self-proclaimed best fans in baseball. All right, the best fans in baseball. I don't need that. I don't need to go out there. I don't need to be in St. Louis. I hate the Cardinals. I'd immediately nix that trade. No interest in playing for those losers. And Chris Carpenter, what a whiner that guy is, complaining about the balls and the smoke in my eyes. We don't complain about that stuff. St. Louis disgusts me. I hate St. Louis. I think it's more just I hate the Cardinals. I hate the organization so much. I think that's and it's probably just because they've been the gold standard and they've owned us for so long. And I should probably put that personal vendetta against the Cardinals aside, but no, I can't. It's too strong. St. Louis.
St. Louis was my number 3, so I will let me workshop this one. I was thinking Philadelphia.
That's what I was gonna say.
Philadelphia, Here's the thing about Philadelphia. If you're really good in Philadelphia, they love you. You are a king. Right. You are a king. But the problem is that they turn on you so fast, and those fans are so ruthless. Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to deal with it at all.
Yeah, just imagine if you're not a superstar. You're just one of the average players on that team. The moment you make one mistake, even if it's very minor and it doesn't do a whole lot of harm to the team itself, you are cursed up and down. You are just the worst, a pile of trash. And that's just, Philadelphia is definitely one of those teams. But at the same time, they are neighbors to Pittsburgh, so it kind of makes sense, right? Just Pennsylvania in general, out.
I'd probably nix a trade to the Angels.
I
would not nix a Dodgers trade.
I would either.
I guess I'm maybe a little biased coming from DC and the traffic and the bigger city and everything like that. Like that doesn't so much bother me. I'm very used to that. It's very funny sometimes when I drive with people around here from Cincinnati and we'll be like downtown between Oakley and the city, and there's that like one little log jam that happens right around MLK to get down around to the Red Stadium, and then everybody will complain about traffic. I'm like, I sit in an hour of traffic just to go 10 miles back home. So the LA big city thing, I wouldn't nix a trade to the Dodgers. I might nix a trade to the Angels.
I have one.
Because I don't think it would be worth it to do the traffic and all of that in Anaheim and that whole scene to play for the Angels in the way they're currently constructed.
I've got one more. Any team outside of the USA, like Toronto, like anything that is like going to require me a passport to travel back and forth between the states and whatnot just to see my family.
I'm with you. I was gonna say Toronto. I don't really have anything against Toronto, but I don't have a passport, so they're gonna have to work that out. Like, that's on you. Like you got I'm gonna have to figure that out. But Paul, Angels was another one I was thinking.
Yeah,
about. Like that's just
meh.
No.
Mouse Cop. The problem with Cincinnati traffic is that it doesn't make sense. I've never heard it said like that, but
what doesn't make sense?
The traffic.
I don't know. I mean, the metro is pretty big,
Yeah.
75 is a disaster, not to get into the traffic thing, but
that's all 75 though. It's not just the Cincinnati thing.
Right. I don't know.
Casey, what did I just see on my screen? Are we going to do this? Just get it over with. Just throw them up there. Just get this over with. Just put them up there. Just get it over with.
20 runs? 20 runs? 7 home runs? It's more. They scored more runs than Justin Fields has ever scored for the Chicago Bears in his life. 20 runs? Here's Elliott. He's not doing well. Hey, wait. Bring it back to me. You guys were talking about worst cities? Is that right?
Yeah.
Did anybody mention Hamilton yet?
I'm wearing the shirt, Elliot.
Yeah, you are wearing a Hamilton Joe shirt. You guys are mentioning teams that you wouldn't want to play for. Did anyone mention the Florida teams? I mean, I know it's nice weather, but I want to play in front of fans.
I had the Marlins as my fifth if anybody else got picked. The Marlins were my backup. I don't know. I feel like being in Miami though would be fun.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
you would go play Miami.
City, but once again,
Tampa. I forgot about the Rays. Yeah,
Tampa
totally forgot about the Rays. Tampa. See ya.
Jacksonville.
Well, they don't have a team.
Well,
they have
Jags.
a AAA team. Oh, I see what you're saying.
The better question is, outside of the Reds, stop hitting these rumble strips.
Sorry, I'm trying.
Outside of the Reds, who's the team that you'd most want to play for? Because for me, outside of the Cubs and the Reds, it'd be the Braves.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to ask this question after I knew this was coming. We'll let Reed get it in here. Let me see. One pick outside of the Reds.
Well, you would be the Nats, right?
Cubs. Yeah, it would be a hard time saying no to the Nats. I'd love to go back home and play for the Nats.
I think I don't know, something about Boston. I kind of like Boston. I think Fenway's great. I like the city. But Red Sox would kind of be. I think that would be up there for me. That might be my pick.
Okay.
Although the fans, I don't know.
Reed, where would you go?
Outside of Chicago and Cincinnati, I like I said, in Atlanta. We got to get going because we got to get our eyes back on the road. I'll leave Zach with one question.
Okay.
Out of all of the Cubs home runs last night, which was your favorite? Because they hit 7 of them.
I like the ones that land in that stupid basket, that made-up basket that you guys have, that little contraption that you use. That Dansby Swanson, yeah, that's that fake contraption they need to suck.
It's
all
just
those
to
balls
make them
in.
all feel better. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's just to
Yeah.
pad
How about those?
pad stats and make everybody feel better
Those
about
fake
themselves.
ones.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The thing is about the basket, first off, you mentioned Dansby Swanson. That's what a long-haired middle infielder, that's how he's supposed to play. I know the Reds don't have any long-haired middle infielders, but that's how they're supposed to play. Great fans and a great hitter. Actually, Trace told me what that basket was for. He gave me a little bit of news on that basket. Apparently, the bleacher bums used to just run along the side and hop over the fence all the time. So that's because the hooligans like me and Elliot are going to be tonight out in the bleachers, fence all the time. So that's there to keep that from happening.
How is the drive right now? How's Elliot doing? Is our sweet prince holding up?
They don't pave the roads. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm yelling loudly. They're not paving the some kind of weird buffer, and it makes noise. Here, I'll go over it to Reed keeps playing Cubs music. I can't see straight. I can't hear myself think. It's horrible. We're having a very bad time, but it helps me. It helps me drive right now, knowing that the Cincinnati Reds are going to win this series. I know Trace thinks we'll split the series. It's not going to happen. The Cincinnati Reds are winning this series, and then Jonathan India is going to come back in 10 days, and he's going to be the player that everybody thought he was. We're not Jose Barrero. Jose Barrero stinks. He stinks, everybody. Jonathan India is very good. I know Trace thinks everybody else is better than him. Reds are going to be very good. That's my final thoughts. Goodbye. Love you all. Hamilton stinks.
He was yelling like a grandpa, just yelling it like it's on speaker or something like that.
You came through loud and clear, Elliot. Just want you to know that. The people heard you, except you did cut out there for about 10 seconds. Big technology, big tech, they were silencing you. It's tough.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, we gotta
all
get
right,
back
fellas.
on the road, so guys.
Enjoy your game tonight. Can't wait to see the tweets.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah, see
Bye,
you guys.
fellas.
See ya. We just sat there and took that. We just sat there and took that.
it was tough. It's hard when you lose 20-9. You know, we'll let him have his day. You know, we'll let him have his day of fun. But it's a new day tonight. B. Will's on the mound.
You know,
The
I
world
think
is balanced again, right? I mean, Elliott had his fun. Now Reed's had his fun. Now we're gonna be back to winning the series. We're back on track, right?
That's the hope. I think so.
Trace tweeted last night that it was Trace or Elliot, one of the two. I think it was Trace. Tweeted that he has never been more confident about anything in his life than a series split. 2 games apiece. Does that win come tonight or tomorrow?
That win.
Dreamweaver pitches tomorrow.
I'm taking tonight. I think tonight.
You think
I'm
tonight?
going against the Dreamweaver. I know it's hard to go against Dreamweaver, but you know, last time out he threw his best start of the year and we lost. So I feel good about tonight. I do. B. Will's pitching well. I know last outing was a little shaky, but you're facing a tough Dodger lineup. Drew Smiley's been terrible as of late, just awful. I feel pretty good about tonight. I think last night you'd rather lose the way we lost, right, than lose 1-0, right? I would rather lose like that. It's 1-162. You just shake it off. You got one of those nights. I'd rather lose like that.
Okay, we did this yesterday. And again, I see AJ Worse in the chat. Good to have you in here, AJ. If you're just joining the show, this is Zach over here, Zach Fries. Zach is a very good friend of Elliot's. Zach is also a writer for Chatterbox Sports. So if you like what Zach is bringing to the table right now on the air, you can read him off the air. He writes for us 1-2 times a week whenever his schedule allows, whenever he can. And you can find that on chatterboxsports.com. There's a little tab called The Word. We have some good writers. There's also a writer who has been writing for us over the last few weeks, who was a producer, worked in sports and worked pretty high up in sports on the production side of things for a long time. And he's done some pretty good pieces for us. His name's Lee Jarowitz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Lee, if you're listening to this. Jarowitz, one of the two. But he's been around the Cincinnati scene for a long time. We have some other writers that are coming on board with us as well. So read their stuff, but that's Zach. Zach, do you have anything else that you want to kind of pitch the people on or tell the people who you are? Because I have a feeling you'll be more recurring on this show.
Well, I mean, if you love UC sports, I'm going to be doing a lot of that, a lot of UC football, basketball stuff. I mean, I love the Reds, obviously. I'm sure me and Paul will probably once basketball. I love college basketball, so once that.
It warms my soul that
I'm a junkie.
It warms my soul that between Elliot and now you, Reed is a big Xavier fan, loves going to the games, everything like that. I can tell you guys are college basketball junkies.
We're big college basketball guys. Like I've got UC basketball season tickets. I just got it. I can't wait. We're in the Big 12, so
Reed has been my confidant. When I need to talk college basketball around here, Reed is my guy.
So
and now I have two more guys.
So it's like, now we're like, we're both. Now we have two. You have two on your side. Me and Elliot on the UC. We're the UC basketball guys, and I know Charlie will do stuff for us too. Charlie Walter will do a bunch of UC stuff. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of. I can't wait for once we. It's kind of hard like now before football hasn't gotten into full swing, but there'll be a bunch of like UC. I got like UC basketball, UC football. I'll be all over that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm a diehard Reds fan too, as you guys can probably tell. So
what do we need to do to get Wes Miller to smile?
It's you know what? Well,
because he's a nice guy,
great guy.
He's a really nice guy, but he's not very photogenic.
Okay, in defense of him would you want to be stuck in the Heritage Bank Center doing a
No, I was talking about the one from the other night at TBT.
Okay.
Did you see that?
I did. Elliot did show me that. Yeah. Well, we lost.
The Heritage Bank Center one was
they did him.
That wasn't even his fault.
No.
That's not his fault.
No.
They did him so dirty on that, and Anthony Grant too. They did him so dirty on that. So dirty. Who wants to go sit there and do a press conference like that?
It's brutal. And I know we've done the fair sharing of. I know you guys have done the fair sharing of bashing on Heritage Bank, but it's just terrible. Terrible.
I mean, if we want to do a whole week on that.
Terrible place. I went there for a Blake Shelton concert. Like, it was a pretty, a country. We don't country music shame here.
I love country music.
But it was just, I can't imagine how bad it'll be. When that it was pretty packed. The concourses are just so jammed. It's just a nightmare just like being able to walk at it. The logistics of that place. God, it's so bad. Like, But I'm sure I'll go to that game. I say this. And
I think I'm going to go to that game.
I'll go to that game, and, that's just...
When is it? It's in December?
December 16th. I think it's a Saturday.
December 16th. All right.
You know what? Well, that's okay. I'm looking forward to the game. Like, I'm glad. I think UC needs more, like... The non-conference has been terrible in basketball lately. I think it's a good game.
Musketeers have a mighty matchup against Winthrop that day. So maybe if the timing works out, we'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Everett, can anyone name one good act that has been to Heritage in the last 5 years? Legit asking.
I mean, I don't know. It's whatever you like. What do you like?
I love Imagine Dragons. They were there.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they were there.
Okay.
Put on a decent... The problem is the acoustics are so bad.
Yeah. It's brutal. Yeah, the Globetrotters. Yeah, they've been there.
The Globetrotters.
Like
I think the Globetrotters have done the Cintas thing too. I've never seen them. I've never done the Globetrotters.
I just remember they would always go there. It'd be like the week after Christmas, like they'd show up, and that would be their thing. So, yeah, terrible place, Paul.
All right. Let's see. We had The Reds, we've talked about the Reds. Was there anything else with the Reds? We have a half hour left on this show. Anything else with the Reds that we haven't talked about? We covered the trade deadline. Were there any thoughts? Actually, here, we'll go to this. Yesterday, the Mets traded Justin Verlander to the Astros, back to the Astros. Max Scherzer goes to the Rangers. Those teams are within a half game of each other in the AL West right now.
Yeah.
How about the Mets just saying, here, you guys go head-to-head, do battle? I like that.
I think it's great. I think the biggest story, though, is just the Mets parading around all offseason like they were going to win like the next 5 World Series, and now less than 4 months later, they've done a complete 180. It was Uncle Stevie's the greatest of all time. We'll die following him into battle, and now it's Scherzer's like blasting the Mets because they said 2024 is the transition year, and they're looking at 25, 26.
I'm gonna read that quote after you're done with this point.
Really funny. Just like all of a sudden, it's like the Mets are like, you look at their line. I mean, they're just like rabid. They got picked over. Their whole team got picked over. They lose Scherzer. They lose Verlander. You were thinking, they were a 100-win team. They'll probably win like close to 100 games again, and they're just like totally. They blew it up, and now apparently you never know with Steve Cohen. He can drop bags at the drop of a hat, really. But it sounds like they're doing kind of a semi-rebuild, at least for next year. That doesn't sound like they plan on, which I just think's interesting. They're goes to show you, just because you have the deepest pockets, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a contender. Same thing, I guess, similarly to the Padres.
So here's a quote from Max Scherzer. Quote, I talked to Billy. He's talking about Billy Epler, the Mets GM. Yeah. I talked to Billy. I was like, okay, are we reloading for 2024? He goes, no, we're not. Basically, our vision now is 25, 26, 25 at the earliest, more like 26. We're going to be making trades around that. I was like, this is Scherzer, so the team is not going to be pursuing free agents this offseason or assemble a team that can compete for a World Series next year. Epler said, no, we're not going to be signing the upper echelon guys. We're going to be on the smaller deals within free agency. 24 is now looking to be more of a kind of transitory year. How about that one?
That's tough.
How about your star pitcher, somebody you spend all this money on, cachet, everything else, just letting it all air out?
It's
the Steve Cohen thing didn't really. It hasn't panned. I'm not going to say it didn't work. We're way too early in that to say it didn't work.
Right.
But it's not paying any dividends right now.
Right. And I mean, they're going to hire Billy Epler. It's temporary for him. I think they're going to bring in somebody else to run the team. But it is strange that they just they went this fast. And I know they stunk. It did look, the team, it's for whatever reason didn't work out. But it is funny. I am curious of are they going to still do this in future years of all right, we're just going to empty out the books. We're going to empty out our pockets, and we're going to pay whatever it takes. Is that going to be what? Are they going to go more player development? Are they going to go mix? I'm kind of curious now because they spent all the money, and people don't remember. Correa was supposed to go there too. So there was a time when they were heavy on Correa. So it is fascinating now, and it's kind of I'm curious because it's if you're a Mets fan, you got to feel bad, right? If you're a Mets fan, I mean, you got to feel pretty. Last year you were that close, you had 100 wins, you lose to the Braves. Now the Braves are going to be set up forever. I mean, they've got everybody under contract for the next 15 years somehow, and on cheap deals it seems like. And now the Mets are kind of stuck spinning their wheels. I'm looking at the chat right now. Looking at AJ being very down on Steve Cohen and the Mets and everything. There was a part of me that when Steve Cohen bought the team, I'm not going to say I was rooting for the Mets, but I wouldn't have minded seeing the Mets succeed under Steve Cohen because he very clearly just wanted the team to succeed. Sure.
Now, he threw a lot of money at the wall and just hope it stuck.
Right.
But you see a lot of owners in sports that buy the team. They treat it as a business investment. They don't really want to put in the effort to actually making sure the team is good. they just treat it as another business venture and then turn it around, sell it. Maybe the team is good, maybe it isn't, but they don't really care. From that perspective, I didn't mind Steve Cohen because he didn't need the cash. He didn't really care. He just wanted the team to be good.
Right.
And they're not good. So from that perspective, it is a little bit of a bummer that the ownership, from that perspective, didn't work out. Do I care that the Mets are not good? Not the slightest bit. Not in the slightest bit.
I don't either. I think
Not
it's
the
kinda
slightest. In fact, if anything, the Mets being this bad after spending so much money has produced incredible content.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Frank the Tank.
Frank
Gotta
the
love
Tank?
his reaction.
It's poor old Frank the Tank.
He was
Poor
right.
Frank.
He's never been more right. No one has ever been more right than Frank the Tank. You know, I mean, he always bad. I guess if you're that negative all the time, you know, you're going to be right every once in a while. But hey, it looks pretty right to me. Looks pretty right to me right now.
You know, it's funny looking at the trade deadline and, you know, everybody in the last 30 minutes talking about, oh, you know, haven't seen many deals yet. It's going to be a crazy last 30 minutes. 15 minutes goes by. You don't really see anything. Haven't really seen anything yet. None of the contenders have made huge moves. These last 15 minutes are going to be nuts. I mean, Verlander got traded. Scherzer got traded. Those are two older guys. Sure, Verlander had an incredible season last year. He's pitching maybe as well as he's ever pitched, but he's still older. I don't think a lot of baseball fans are going to tell you. Maybe you disagree, but at least to me, Verlander isn't long-term moving the needle as much as, you know, some young star.
Sure.
The biggest story yesterday was a trade that didn't happen.
Right.
They got nixed. That was the biggest story from the deadline yesterday.
It's unfortunate. It was a Paul. I gotta say, for being a baseball junkie like myself, you love the trade deadline, but yesterday let me down. It was a letdown. And maybe last year we were spoiled with Hader going and the Soto trade and all that stuff, but you were kind of you're always like, all right, there's 30 minutes left. Here we go. Something's popped. Like something's gonna happen. Like there's gonna be a big move, and there's, you know, stuff trickles out late, but it was kind of a dud, right? Like it just was there wasn't much. And the Verlander thing, like I'm sure he'll go to Houston and he'll probably be really, really good, and but there wasn't a ton of like eye popping, you know, not a lot of eye popping. I think that's just like some years it's like that, and I think this was the year where, like I was saying earlier, there weren't a lot of definitive sellers. Like the Cubs, like we talked about for a while, it looked like they were going to trade Bellinger and they were going to trade Stroman like a week ago, right? Or 10 days ago. Those guys end up staying, you know. The Yankees kind of held pat. The Red Sox kind of held pat. Those are two teams that usually in some form or fashion are going for it in some way. They're kind of in weird spots where their teams aren't great. So yeah, it was just and it's like the major sellers didn't really have a lot to offer, really. The Royals and the A's, like those are the two worst teams. Like last year, like the Reds were the worst team. Well, they had two of the best starting pitchers on the trade market. Like they had legit two of the probably five best starters that got dealt. This year there just wasn't a whole lot. So
yeah.
It was a little bit of a dud this year. But.
If the playoffs ended today, the Reds would play the Brewers, the winner there to face the Dodgers. The Giants would play the Phillies, the winner there to face the Braves. I know I've sat up here and said that the Dodgers, you know, if you make the postseason, you got to play somebody. Seeing the Brewers and Dodgers there. Brewers in round one, man, I'm telling you what. If we sit up here for 7 months and Nick Kirby and Trace Fowler, they work to build one of the best baseball podcasts, not only in the city, but in the country. Charts show it. Only to play the Brewers in the first round of the postseason. I don't know if I can handle that. That would be a tough sell. That'd be a real tough sell after all this time. He'll look. I just don't want an Atlanta situation again.
Yeah.
Now, that season was shorter, so you didn't have as much time to build expectations. You didn't have as much time to sit there and dwell on what could be or what could have been or anything like that because you're only playing 60 games, motored through the season. Then all of a sudden you play 2 games down in Atlanta. You get shut out. All right, whatever. But you play 162 for a team that was supposed to win 65 games, probably going to end up somewhere between 80 and 90 wins, depending on how, this next stretch goes. Potentially winning the division. I would say winning the division, but we'll see. To play the Brewers?
I would hate it.
God, I would hate that.
Now, Nick Kirby in the chat, I'm curious. He says he would take the Brewers over anyone else outside of Miami. I don't know, man. A Burns Peralta Woodruff might break me. If like a 3 2-1 games or maybe even 2 2-1 games.
That's the thing is that they're not even exciting.
Break me.
They're not even fun.
No, it would be it'd be miserable, Paul. It would be 1-0 or 2-1 games, and I would just be like, those are the sitting through those Atlanta, like you were talking, the Atlanta playoff game, that was bad. That was torture enough. But a Burns, I don't know. That would be tough to stomach, especially if I had to if they came here and shut us down. Oh God, yeah, that would be tough. I personally, I would take my chances against the Giants. I think we can match up with the Giants fairly well. Same thing with like an Arizona. I would feel fine against Miami. I wouldn't be that worried. They have good pitching. Sure, you're playing playoff teams. They're going to have some good pitchers, and Miami has that. But I guess it's just because the Brewers, we're 3-10 against the Brewers. It would just, I don't know, something about that.
Demoralizing.
But it would be demoralizing. It would be demoralizing.
Would you rather lose? Say you lose. I hate talking about losing. I hate talking about it. But I'm going to ask a question. Because you mentioned how last night you'd rather lose 20-5 and never have a shot. I know it was 20-9, but
yeah.
Rather lose like that than lose 1-0. Would you rather lose to Milwaukee 2-1 and 1-0 and just feel like it was the close thing, but you knew what to expect because that's what it always was? Or would you rather play a Philadelphia, say, or a San Francisco, one of those, and lose 7-5, 9-7, and 10-6? And the pitchers just get shelled, but you score a lot of runs. It's kind of fun, but you just were never really in it because the other team's just offensively scoring too much.
Man, that's tough. I think,
I know what I would pick.
All right, what's your pick, Casey? Haven't heard from you in a while.
I'd pick the high scoring because at least that's showing that that's the team's identity. If they get shut out again in the playoffs, it's like, man, is this team actually really good at anything? Is it just a facade? Is it just fake? That's how I would feel.
That's how a lot of people felt in 2020.
I think I would rather lose the high scoring. I think I'd rather lose the high scoring game.
I just couldn't. The only reason I'm even asking this question, not to cut you off, but the only reason I'm even asking this question, because I'm not going to sit here and do the glass half empty thing or be negative. It's just simply because of the potential of playing Milwaukee.
I think
because we'd have to get over that.
Well, I think there is something. I think losing, there isn't a 1-0 loss. You feel worse. You just feel a million times worse after. I feel or especially especially the Braves game when in the playoffs, that game, when we had so many the amount of chances we had even in the first inning, right? Those kind of losses I feel stick with me more. And I guess it's just every game's different, but a 1-0 loss for me, that game that coming out of the break. When on that Friday when we lost to Burns, I think it was 1-0 or maybe it was 2-0.
Yeah. I know.
It felt like a 1-0 game, but that was that loss hurt more. Those losses hurt a little bit more for me. I don't know. It's just because it was also just a terribly boring game. I mean, I love baseball as much as the next guy, but they weren't competitive. It just wasn't no competitive at bats. So Yeah, I'd probably rather lose like a 7-5 to the Phillies.
Okay, let me ask you this. Casey and I have talked about this. We've talked about it on the air, but we haven't gotten your take on it. I see some people in the chat saying the Brewers will fade. Some people talking about the Cubs. I think this is for all intents and purposes, 3-team race. Zach, who do you think, sitting here on August 2nd, finishes second in the division? Do the Cubs make a run? Do the Brewers fade? What happens?
Well, I mean, I have to, the chat will hold me to this. I said that I'd take the Brewers. I said I'd take the Brewers to win the division last week, if you guys remember.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I don't know. It's tough. I still there is something about the Brewers where it's like that pitching worries me because you have Burns, you have Peralta. It's deep, right? Woodruff's going to come back. Wade Miley is solid. And then, Hauser and Colin Ray have been perfectly serviceable fifth guys. If you made me pick today, I think I would give the Brewers a very slight edge in the division over the Reds. I think we're coming down. I think it'll come down to the wire. I just think pretty clearly right now I think they have the best starting pitching. I think the back end of their bullpen is the best. I would take it over anybody else in the division. Yeah, their lineup's not great. They made some additions, but I don't know. I would barely give the Brewers an edge. The Cubs are interesting because I agree. Like I think they're a little bit their lineup's longer now. They got Candelario. They're pretty good. Bellinger is where's this been the last 4 years?
Yeah,
guy forgot how to hit. Now he's Barry Bonds. I just don't. I'm not especially the way Stroman's pitched. I'm not. Their rotation to me isn't great. I know Steele's really good, but Stroman's been terrible. And outside of that, I don't know. Their bullpen's fine. They pitched okay, but something about the Cubs, and I know they kind of have the run differential thing, which is maybe that evens out at some point, and they end up they won 8 in a row or whatever, but I still think they're third. I would still put them third. I just, for whatever reason, I can't. Maybe it's a mental thing of the Brewers just dominating us. Maybe that's why I can't get over it. Because they've been like 500 against everybody else except us and the Pirates. I just, for whatever reason, I can't get over that, Paul. And I favor them ever so slightly, and I hate doing it. And I don't know. There's just something deep down that makes me think the Brewers are just going to edge us out. And I hate saying that, but that's just that's how I feel.
All right, we're getting close to the end of the show. And I want to ask you, Casey, a Bengals question real quick here that I see in the chat. But before I do that, the Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
You can visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Also, Pawnee Water. Want to thank them for their sponsorship made right here behind me. In Hamilton, Ohio, Pawnee Water uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water that we like to call the best tasting water in the world. You can visit their website at pawneewater.com. That's PAHHNI water.com. PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy it. I saw Chad Waits tweeted a thing out this morning that he was drinking some Pawnee water. So thank you to him. Thank you to everybody. Sir Boy Wonder bought a pack of Pawnee water. Everybody's buying the Pawnee water. Get your coffee from UDF, bet with Brad Fred, drink Pawnee water, and get your technology solutions from Encore. Casey, what is...
First break the news. The breaking news, TJ Anton has...
He's going back to Louisville?
Okay.
Rehab stint?
Yep.
All right, good on. All right, progress.
That's good news.
All right.
That's good news.
All right. Casey, you have what's going on here? Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins. I did not see anything about this. So what is this?
So there's been this graphic that's been circulating around the NFL world that has Joe Burrow's playoff stats on one side, Kirk Cousins' stats on the other. And it paints a picture that shows Kirk Cousins performing better statistically than Burrow in an equal amount of playoff games. Trying to tell the audience that's reading that graphic or anyone that's seeing it that Kirk Cousins is, unfairly judged, and that Joe Burrow's not as good as everyone makes him out to be. However, there's stats don't tell the full picture. They never have. Kirk Cousins never advanced past the divisional round, meaning that he's played mainly wild card games, which are the teams that are barely making it in the playoffs most of the time, and he was losing to those guys. 1 year he beat a really good Saints team, last minute touchdown to Kyle Rudolph in the back of the end zone. That was probably his best performance in the playoffs. We'll put it like that. And It wasn't really that great, right? He didn't wow you with anything. It's just dumb because Burrow has, had a terrible offensive line in 2021 and managed to just barely scrape by. I mean, the dude was sacked 9 times in one game. Kirk Cousins gets sacked 9 times in one game. He's getting blown out. That's not Joe Burrow, though. And Joe Burrow has always been just Joe Cool when it really matters most. When it comes down to crunch time, he's going to deliver. Last year, it was the AFC Championship game where, he's getting pressure from up the middle. And, it just was very dumb. The graphic is very misleading. Burrow is the better quarterback. Everyone would take Burrow over Kirk,
right?
At any time, at any point. And some people were making some really good points before I got on this tangent, just saying, the defense. Kirk Cousins really hasn't had a good defense, and that's true. But partially because if you just look at the structure of his contract, I mean, he was taking up like $45 million in cap space, and that can go to a really good defensive player. It just, some of those defensive stats, they don't also consider that Kirk Cousins turned the ball over or, putting them in a precarious situation. So don't always believe what the stats say. Right. Do some research first. Look at what happened within the game and then come back and have the conversation, because I do think there is some merit to Kirk Cousins not having a good defense, but you don't just take Kirk Cousins over Joey Burrow. Simple
But maybe
as
you
that.
take Geno Smith.
Geno Smith? Well, I don't know. This year, Geno Smith might be a top 5 quarterback.
Top 5.
Whoa.
Top
We're
5.
jumping the gun here.
Top 5.
Top 5. I said it. That offense, man, it could be very scary. Very, very scary.
Wow.
I'm very high on the Seahawks. I know a lot of people aren't, but man, they've got an offense there, man, and I think they've done enough to improve their defense to be a solid team. I don't think it's a slam dunk that the 49ers win their division because of the Seahawks.
Oh, baby.
Okay.
We got 4 days to unpack all this.
I like this.
We got 4 days to unpack this. Casey, let's run the cherry on top.
Let's load that bad boy up.
Let's load that bad boy up and let's run the cherry on top. Okay. So Casey's going to play this clip. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. Play the clip. The Somali government sent an athlete to represent their nation. I don't know what competition this is. Problem was that this sprinter has never run before. So we later find out that the athlete is actually the niece of Somalia's head of athletics federation.
She's the one in blue.
Well,
the light blue.
You know what, Casey? I don't think it's going to be hard to figure out.
Yeah.
I just wanted the audience to know because I didn't know who we were talking about before.
I think you'll be able to figure this one out pretty quick. What are we doing? What are we doing? She's not even in the picture. No, wait. They stay on the finish line. She's still not in the picture.
Wait.
Still not in the picture.
Wait for it. Oh,
there we go.
There you go.
There we go. She finished.
That's
tough.
That's tough.
Now, to be fair to her, that looked like me this morning.
Paul, yeah, where are you lining?
Oh, I'm not.
Where are you finishing? Can you?
Oh, dead last. I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I got long gazelle legs, but I'm not.
You beating her out, you think?
Am I? Oh,
You think you're lapping her?
Well, that's tough. Long distance? I don't know. But in 100?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know, man. She seemed kind of fast.
Casey.
It's the sleeves. It was the sleeves. Bad choice.
How fast would you run a 100-meter dash?
So slow. I think I might have gotten timed.
What was your time in high school? We all got timed in high school.
It was 7 something, maybe 6 or 6 something.
No. 100 meter, not the 40.
Oh, 100, I don't know. But I've done 40.
40?
Yeah, I was 7.
40 you could run in 5 or 6.
Probably 6. It'd be in the 6s now, probably. Yeah. I'm not fleet of foot. It's not a skill.
We did 40-yard dashes last year when we would finish setting up for for game day. We'd go out and run a 40-yard dash.
Would you
remember?
run?
I think it was high fives.
I don't think I ran it.
I think I was high fives, somewhere in there. I pulled a muscle. Look, I'm never going to sit here and pretend that I'm the most athletic person in the world. I'm more athletic than a lot of people, but I'm less athletic than most people.
We got to do a beer mile. We got to do a lot of things here at Chatterbox.
Brother, I ate a bowl of Fruit Loops today and started throwing up.
Yeah, we need a combine.
I did 60.
Yeah, we got to do combine.
I did 60 seconds. 60 seconds on a bike and threw up. 60 seconds. That's how bad it is.
You did 60 seconds full speed?
Full speed. Threw up. That's what we're working with here, Casey.
Like, do we think like does Reed win like a Chatterbox combine going away? Do we think? Like if there's like a Chatterbox.
Well, is it like
if we did like I don't know, we did a 40, we did like a vert, I don't know.
Trace is sneaky athletic.
Yeah.
Trace is sneaky athletic.
Trace could do all the I think he would clear all the jumping drills and probably the running drills.
Okay.
But it's the bench.
The
I don't
bench.
know. Reed I think got most of us by a
lot.
Okay, so now somebody points out in the chat, PB's Ghost says that girl who ran in that race was a shot put athlete, and they ran her to give her team points rather than no points because they lost their participant due to injury. Now, if that's the case, all right.
Yeah.
But the tweet made it seem very corrupt.
Yeah.
The tweet that was attached with it, which is quite literally the only context I had for that race, and I wasn't really interested in looking into a whole lot more. That was all we got. Now, if she's doing that, that's fine, because that happens every once in a while.
Sure.
Like if you're in a swimming and diving, sometimes you'll see if a team doesn't have a diving team, they'll send somebody out there literally just to go dive into the pool to get the points to qualify.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, regardless, tough visual. I mean, it's still a bad.
Chat's having some fun here. Chat's having some fun with cardio, if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Chat is having some fun with some cardio. I'm not going to read these.
I think Reed probably would win.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of.
Well, their RAS scores would be through the roof, right?
Ooh.
The
I don't
RAS
give
scores?
a damn about no RAS scores.
I don't care
Casey?
about it.
Come on.
That's right. I don't care about it. Anything else? Anything else before we get out of here? We got 120 seconds left. Zach, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for coming up here to Hamilton.
Great
I don't know
day.
what else you would have been doing today.
Contrary to Elliot, I don't have a bad word to say about Hamilton. I like this. I like this city. I can get cozy in Hamilton. Nothing wrong with Hamilton.
Come live in Hamilton?
Work will suffice. Work is good.
All right.
We'll see.
Zach, you did an outstanding job today. Thank you very much for coming up here and helping us do this. We were talking about getting some guests on and stuff. I said, you know what, Elliot, let's see if Zach can come up here and have a little conversation. So again, we will have Jay Morrison is on the show tomorrow at 10:30 to talk Bengals. Good to see Joe back, Jay rather back. Yeah. Working again and everything that all worked out for him. So Jay will be on at 10:30, 11:30, of course, Mr. 29, the Tracer. So we will have you covered with interviews. It'll just be Casey and I in the studio tomorrow. Everybody else is on vacation. Well, I guess Elliot's working.
Elliot's working hard, making us money.
Elliot's making us money. But tomorrow should be a great conversation. Then Friday, we'll see what happens. Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday, Elliot will be back, and we'll rock with the three of us. All right, everybody, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Thank you so much for listening. See what happens with the Reds tonight. 2 games left up there in Chicago. Elliot and Reed are at the game. They are at Wrigley Field. So if you follow us on Seabox Sports on Twitter, I'm sure they'll have some content and everything else. But Zach, thanks again.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
We'll do this again sometime.
We need to.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.